Well, howdy, everybody. Welcome to Correctional Systems. This is the introductory video for the online fall of 2021 class. So one thing about that, this is kind of our face-to-face classes. We're waiting to see what's going to happen, how long we'll be face-to-face and whatever. But with the online class, we're pretty much set. So we're going to go over what the expectations are this year. And barring a hurricane or an early freeze, we'll probably have a schedule for you that will be followed this semester. Of course, if we do have changes, we'll let you know. Before we get started talking about the course, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So let me get out of the way and pull up another screen. And the reason I put these screens up so as I remember to tell you things. And one of the things that I need to let you know before we really even get started introducing myself is, as you're watching this video, pay attention to the rules, pay attention to the expectations, because once you watch this video and the APA video below, again, if you've been in my classes for several semesters, you probably don't have to watch the APA video because it's the same one. But if you haven't been, or you need a refresher, watch the APA video, because you will have to take and pass a quiz with a 100% score on the introduction and quiz. It's a 10 multiple choice quiz. You have unlimited amount of time to take it and an unlimited amount of tries. Most people, the majority of the people, pass it with 100 the first time. Then we have a group that doesn't. Most of those pass it the second time, and then we've got the people that take 4 or 5 tries. Don't be one of those that just decide to take it and guess. You need to take it and watch the video first and then kind of learn what's expected of you. That's kind of important. So the other caveat with this quiz, it's going to be given with the HonorLock system, our test proctoring system. If you haven't used it before, there's a video for you to watch on the week 1 page. We'll show you where that is shortly. Watch it, because I want everybody to take a test, or a quiz in this case, with HonorLock before it counts. Now, not that the introductory quiz doesn't count, because you can't take the course unless you make 100 on it, but you get to take it as many times as you want. So, the exams, you only have 1 try. So we want to make sure that HonorLock works for you. Okay, so now we'll tell you about myself. My name is Craig Foss. I am the department chair for the Criminal Justice Department here at Alvin College. I've been here since 2014. I am a twice retired police officer, retired in 2001 from the Galveston Police Department, and then retired from the Dickinson Police Department to come to work here at Alvin College. My law enforcement career started back in the 70s. For a short time, I worked as a store detective for a grocery store in Houston called Rice Food Market. I don't believe they have any of them left. They had one straggler for a long time in the Rice Village, but I think that's even gone away. Catching shoplifters, and, watching from a booth and so forth. I then worked for Target. Target stores was a much smaller company than it is today. I had worked at Target as a high school student. Starting in 1973, I think it was, I went to work for Target, working in the toy department, and then came back to them after that short stint with Rice Food Market, working as a store detective there, and caught a lot of shoplifters. Worked at the Target store that was located near the Astrodome. Both places are not there. I mean, the Astrodome's there, but it's not the same thing. And the old Target, I don't know what it is now. I pass it going to the football stadium several times a year, but it's some kind of warehouse. I don't know what they are now. But at any rate, I got my first law enforcement job or police commission. It wasn't really a job, it was an unpaid position, as a reserve deputy constable in Harris County. I attended a very lengthy 72-hour police academy. Yeah, that's right, 72 hours, like in less than 2 weeks if you went full time. And then there was no field training. It was like, hey, you're a deputy constable here, go search some civil papers. I we were a much better situation today where it's more than 72 hours. It's over 700 hours to complete the police academy. I got my first full-time job with the Beaumont Police Department. The picture you see here is my much younger self as a very thin Beaumont police officer from 1979. I applied for the Galveston Police Department in 1978 and tested with them again in 1979 and didn't make the cut, didn't get the job. So in 79 I wanted a job, so I went throughout the state, going as far north as Lufkin, Texas. I scored first on their test, but they told me they weren't hiring outsiders because I was an outsider. Okay, and then I went as far south as I think Laredo and Corpus Christi. One of them I got there after the test date, and went through several small towns. I tested in Victoria, Texas. I tested in Beaumont. Beaumont offered me a job. Get ready to go to the academy. Victoria called and offered me a job. So I ended up working Beaumont. I was in Beaumont, and I did not like the city of Beaumont. I don't know why. I just didn't gel with it. Didn't feel the city. And fortunately, Galveston called and said, "Hey, you still want a job?" And I said, "Yes." And well, you got to be here for a physical agility test. The exam you took last year expires in a couple of days, and we got to get you on board. So I went, took the physical agility, failed it. Everybody failed it. All there were three of us that took it, failed it. They said, "Okay, go home. We're going to check on some things." The next day, their physical fitness instructor failed it. They had measured things wrong, and they actually had the placement of the obstacles in the wrong spot. So they said, "Okay, everybody passed." The thing about it is that when I went back to Beaumont after failing that physical agility, I got into a foot chase and chased a guy down for about several blocks and was able to tackle him and arrest him, and felt good about it. So it was like, I know I could physically do it. I was a 22-year-old kid at the time. I realized to y'all that doesn't sound like a kid, but to me it was. But anyway, Galveston called me back and said, "Hey, we got to officially hire you today because the list expires. Hang on for the chief." The chief called and said, "Hey, you're hired." And I said, "Okay, great." And they said, "The academy will start soon." Well, soon started instead of, February, March is what they were shooting for. It ended up being May. Not a big deal. But it took 3 tests to fill my academy. Worked in Galveston for 21 years. I was a patrol officer first, worked a couple of years on the night shift and evening shift, and then went to day shift. Then was transferred to the identification division, where I spent 17 of my 21 years with the department in that division. The identification division processed crime scenes. I was a fingerprint examiner. We had a dark room. We printed our own pictures in the days before digital photography. Worked a lot of crime scenes. We had gang wars going on. We had a lot of murders. We had a lot of autopsies. Eventually went to polygraph school and became a polygraph examiner. One area of law enforcement that I would not go back to if I had to do it over. I'm glad I did it, but wouldn't want to do it again. I promoted to sergeant and ended up on night watch patrol for a year as a patrol sergeant. That was a very fun job. I just couldn't sleep very well during the day. And then I spent a year as an auto theft detective, went back to the ID division, and then actually was on loan to IT for a while doing computer programming while still doing the scheduling for ID as the sergeant. One day at Mardi Gras in 2001, the officer that had worked for me, who was a Dickinson officer, was working Mardi Gras and said, "Hey, I'm quitting to go to work in League City. My job's going to be open." And his job in Dickinson had been the forensic guy that did the crime scene officer as a detective. So I went in and called them and said, "Hey, y'all going to be hiring?" And they said, "Yeah, apply." And I knew the lieutenant from the CID, because he used to be a dispatcher in Galveston, tested and got hired and retired from Galveston. I was eligible to retire. I ended up working more fraud cases than crime scenes, but I did work crime scenes. I did run the property room, which it's a very important job, but it's, I would rather not add the property room. And then fraud, I liked working. I enjoyed it. It was one area of crime at the time that was going up, and that was because of change in technology. Everything else was going down. Kind of where we went. Well, to kind of go on to my educational history. Out of high school, I went to the University of Houston, the main campus, and was going to do radio and television. Changed my mind, took some political science classes, decided I'd go into law school, and changed my mind and decided to become a police officer. While on campus there, the campus newspaper had an article from one of the police officers that had gone through the law enforcement program at College of the Mainland. And I thought, oh, that's near Galveston. I think I might want to go there and take some law enforcement classes. So I did the next semester, and kind of went there part-time, and while I ended up working, eventually going to the police department in Beaumont. While I was in Beaumont, I didn't go to school, but when I moved back to Galveston, I went back to College of the Mainland, and it only took me 7 years to get an associate degree. So if it's taking you a while, don't worry, you're not the only one. I then transferred to the University of Houston in Clear Lake to take a criminology degree because they didn't offer criminal justice. Criminology is more the science behind why people commit crime, as opposed to criminal justice, which is how do we prevent and how do we enforce laws and so forth. So preferred criminal justice, but there wasn't an online version available at the time, so I went with what was available. I was there for a couple semesters, taking 1 or 2 classes a semester, and then Hurricane Alicia hit and destroyed my house. So that kind of put a damper on what I was doing. I finished the semester I was in, and then the next semester I decided to take a year off while I rebuilt. It was a lot of work rebuilding a house from the ground up. Fortunately, I was just by myself and had no kids. It would have been a whole lot worse had it been more than just me, but it wasn't. But I still needed time to get plumbers out and electricians and people to put up walls, and just a whole lot of work involved in it. So I decided to take a semester off, and then met someone and ended up spending some time. Ended up a few years later getting married. So that 1 year kind of went off until like 22 years, 21 years before I went back to school. And I had a couple reasons to go back. One is when I told my father I wanted to be a police officer, he wasn't real happy with it, but he finally said, hey, as long as you finish your education, I've got no problem with it. To me, finishing my education meant getting my bachelor's degree. So I wanted to do it. My dad was getting older, so I wanted to complete it before it was too late. And my daughter was in high school, and I wanted to tell her, hey, you need to go get your college degree because, look, I'm getting mine. And with both of those reasons. So I'm at the Law Enforcement Management Institute of Texas, which is a program that is taught over 9 weeks at 3 different colleges, at Texas A&M, at Texas Women in Denton, and then at Sam Houston State. And one of the instructors at the program was a professor of criminal justice for Midwestern State University, and he did a recruiting program for their online BAAS degree, which is Bachelor of Arts in Applied Science. And it was a fully online program, almost fully. I was able to go back there. I did have to go take a speech class at College of the Mainland because it had to be a face-to-face, kind of hard to give speeches over the internet. But other than that, everything else I took online and passed it. And I found that I liked it better, did better as a more mature college student than I did when I was a youngster and the pub was calling, or I was working, or something of that nature. I was definitely working when I was at Midwestern, and very active in my church with the youth program for my daughter and things like that. But I still I wasn't out to the bars late at night and things. So, that kind of made it, I guess, a little bit more. I was more into the school, and since I liked it, I've applied for and got accepted into the master's program at Sam Houston State. It was a weekend program. Even more important, the 100 Club of Houston paid for it. That was great. You went once a month, 1 weekend a month, both Saturday and Sunday for 2 years, all year round, summer, fall, fall, spring, and summer semesters. And first got there, that first semester I didn't know if I was going to make it, but I did. I put the nose to the grindstone and completed my master's degree. And then decided that I want to teach when I retire, so I looked around for a teaching job and got one at University of Phoenix. Suffice it to say, I'm glad I'm no longer teaching at University of Phoenix. We'll leave it at that. And I was out here at Alvin College one day recruiting for openings for the Dickinson Police Department, talking to the cadet class, and was told that the department chair for the Criminal Justice Department was retiring. And I decided to put in an application. And surprisingly, they called me and said, "Hey, the job's yours," after the day of the interview. And I thought that was pretty good, but wasn't sure if I was ready to retire. Talking it over with my wife and realizing that I wasn't enjoying my job as much as I used to, I figured it was time for change, and went ahead and did it, and I was so glad I did. I really enjoy teaching. I enjoy talking to the students. I enjoy when somebody gets something. I enjoy working with the police cadets. I just don't like the admin stuff. And unfortunately, just like writing reports in police work, it's part of the job. So you just gotta grin and bear it. So anyway, that's me. And now we're going to go back, and I'm going to go ahead and put this into the student mode. I am not going to spend time teaching you how to get into Blackboard. If you're watching this video through a link in email and you don't know how to get into Blackboard, send me an email and I will work with you. But other than that, I'm assuming you can find your way to class. You will get to this landing page, and on this landing page you've got several things that are available to you. One is the announcements. I will make weekly announcements with a weekly video of what it's called Week at a Glance, or Do This Week, and you'll get it by email also, but you'll see it here. If we have changes in the schedule, if we have other important events going on campus, you'll get an announcement here. The to-do. Don't look at this. I'm not using Blackboard's dates because of I have a system where I allow you to work ahead, and if I've got the due dates in it, it messes it all up. So you've got to pass a test, a quiz, before you can go to the next chapter. And I tried it with the due dates in there, and it just doesn't quite work out. And then the next thing on here, there's a thing called Tutor Me. I don't know where it came from. It just appeared. It is something that you can use, and if you do use it, someone please tell me how it works. If it's an available tool, so I can kind of pass it on to everybody else. It just showed up this semester, and I haven't been to it. Okay, so we navigate through this course over here on the left-hand side. We start with the dashboard, which is the page you're on. Then we've got Start Here, and this is kind of where you're going to find your course syllabus, the course schedule, my office hours, the textbook, and I think that's about it on that page. The meat and potatoes is next. It's called weekly content. Here you will see what is due each and every week of the semester. You'll scroll down, you'll see everything that's due and the dates that they're due. Everything is going to be due on Thursday night this semester. The next tab is the exam tab, and on the exam tab you will see your exams when you can take them. For example, for exam 1, you have to have completed chapters 1 through 3's discussion and quizzes, and you have to make at least a 70 on the quiz. Before you even get to chapter 1, you have to do the introductory quiz. There are things you have to do. You have to do them. You can do them on any date, but you have to do them. We'll talk about that shortly. Then we've got the research paper tab, where you've got information on your research paper. We will come back to that. So let's now keep going down. Email. You can email anybody in the class if you need information. You can email me with whatever goes through your student email. The discussion board is another link to the discussions. You will also have a link to each one of the discussions you need to do in the weekly content section. A link to my grades. You can look at your grades. And then the virtual meeting room. This is where we will do our orientation, is in the virtual meeting room. Or if we have if you need me to talk to you about something, look at your degree plan or something of that nature where it's better that we are on a computer screen so we can look at things, I will set up a meeting with you that way. Then we have some other help and resources, technical support, which is through the college on all kinds of technical things. Let's see, I'll click on it and show you if it decides to load, and it will. There you go. Things like the Office 365. You have access to a OneDrive, which is really important that you use some kind of a cloud storage for your research paper and all. I can say I've probably had 3 or 4 students, which isn't that many, a very small percentage, that have lost their papers after they wrote it because their computer crashed. Or in one case, their ex or soon-to-be ex-husband decided to take it away from her and leave the house, and she no longer had her computer, which was kind of bad. But you also have up to 5 personal devices for Office that's available to you while you're a student here. You also have the link to Outlook. We've got information on Blackboard, access to Wi-Fi on campus and so forth, and then Blackboard support and other areas for you to answer. And then if you have a Blackboard issue, you've got Blackboard support with the company itself here. You've got a career coach to kind of help you look at the coach, and a link to the library, which will be important for your research paper. So now we're going to go to the Start menu, and the first thing you find on it is a copy of the syllabus. We will go over it in just a second. We're going to go over the items that are particular to my course, for this course and my online courses. Then you'll have your schedule, and you'll kind of notice that we're doing a chapter a week throughout the semester. There's only 13 chapters, so we've got a period of time where we've got 1 week without a chapter that is due. So you just kind of go from there. That's the week your research papers due. But other than that, there's a chapter a week. There's the information on your textbook. You can order it online or through the bookstore in digital versions or a hard copy. In here you can see you can get one that's an older version for $16. There's a version for $36, $93 from Amazon, and so forth. I don't know what it is at the bookstore, but if you check at the bookstore, they are generally fairly competitive on their books, so kind of look there. And then my office hours. This is my planned office hours. We're waiting to see which courses make. I may have to make some modifications on them. But the most important thing to my online students, if you're not coming to campus, you don't need to come to campus to talk to me. Send me an email, tell me what you need to talk about, something I can just shoot you an email back with an answer, I'll do that. If it's something we really need to better to talk about, like your degree plan or something, I'll get it together and we'll set up a date, either for talking on a phone or where we can get into the virtual classroom, and I'll be able to display your degree plan, and we can kind of go from there. So either one of those. I am available during these hours, but again, more likely for the online students, I usually end up talking to them outside of the office hours, and I'm usually available 6 o'clock in the morning till up till I don't want to really be on after 10 o'clock at night. I need my sleep because I wake up early, but so I could have a scheduled meeting with you 9:30 wouldn't be an issue. But we can schedule things, so just keep that in mind. These office hours, I will most likely be available during those, but I will be available outside of those hours. But also keep in mind, I teach in the police academy. I have a lot of meetings on and off campus, and there are times that I won't be available during my office hours. So don't make a special trip to campus during the hours and get here and find out, oh well, he's teaching the police academy today. Always email me and we'll set up a time for the meeting. So make sure that you're the number one on the schedule. Okay, so now we're going to look at the syllabus, and as I said, we're going to look mainly at the differences between what is particular to mine, because we're using a standard template And again, this is Correction Systems 2313. Now I want to make a note, this is not a self-paced class. You have deadlines that you must meet. You can work ahead, but you can't work behind. If you work behind, if you're behind each week, you're going to end up failing the class, even if you have 100 average in the class, because you'll lose so many points. We'll get to that in course attendance. In this class, the major exams are going to be proctored using HonorLock. I kind of mentioned it earlier. It is a proctoring system that is an extension to the full version of the Chrome browser. So any computer that you have that runs a full version will work as long as you have a working webcam and microphone. It will not work on the cell phone versions of Chrome browser or the tablet versions, but it works on Macs, it works on PCs, it works on Chromebooks, anything that has that full version. You will need to have your ID. Preferable is your student ID here, but you can use your driver's license, and a stable internet connection. So you probably don't want to take your test at Starbucks or places like that. I've had people do it in the past. You do things that you have to do under certain situations. So we do what we have to. If nothing else, there is Wi-Fi available on campus, and you need to come up here to take it. We may have a computer available. I'm trying to get right now my lab and classroom don't even have a door on them because of the reconstruction, but eventually I'm going to try to put 2 computers in that lab room there, and if nobody's using it, I'm going to get webcams for them and set it up as an emergency room to take the exam. We'll see. I've got no guarantees on how it's going to work out yet. But with that said, it's real important that you have the computers. If you have an issue with them, please let me know early so we can kind of figure out what we're going to do. Now, the best way to communicate with me is, without a doubt, by sending an email. My office number is available to you, but if I'm not in the office when you call, it's going to get an email message that you left a message. So just better if you write the email right. Just with the email, it works out a lot easier. And then there's a record of it. Okay, so as far as the course, this course is a study in the role of community and corrections, community programs for adults and juveniles, administration of community programs, legal issues, and future trends in community treatment. Community programs are things like probation and parole. And there was a note on here that you may be required to come to campus to present your research paper. At this moment that I'm recording this, with the level of COVID new cases, I'm most likely going to suspend that and do it all by video. But I will see. I mean, if the cases start to go down, maybe we'll bring you to campus. I would love y'all to come to campus, because that way I get to put a face to the name. But I will be out, because I'll see you on the video. And then with the video presentation, we'll have a chat where you ask each other questions after everybody else watches your video. So it actually works out. One of them, I don't know that either one of them is better than the other. I just started the one where we load your videos and have the other students do the ask you questions last semester. It did seem to work out well. So that's probably the route we're going to go. But it's kind of a decision I'll make in the next couple of weeks. As far as the student learning outcomes, you should be able to describe organizations, operations of correctional systems, and alternatives to institutionalization, describe treatment and rehabilitation programs, differentiate between short-term incarceration and long-term institutional environments, evaluate current and future correctional issues, and identify the constitutional rights that are applicable in the correctional systems. And then there's a link just telling you the books in the bookstore. I already showed it to you in Blackboard. And then here's our course outline. Again, the course outline, the schedule is subject to change. In the spring semester, we had the freeze that set everybody back. Normally, something like that, when we've had freezes in the past, that just kept people from coming to campus. the online classes kept rolling. Well, in this case, we lost power with the freeze, so we had a week and a half delay and had to rework things. Email were sent out to all online classes to give them the new schedule. Last fall, we had Hurricane Laura, which did not hit here, but they evacuated the area, so we had some a couple day delay on that, and so we kind of pushed things back a week or so. Anyway, if there's a change, you will get an email and an announcement that will be sent out as an email. Okay, so during the semester there are going to be 3 major exams and a final. The major exams will all be 50 questions covering the material that we've covered, usually about 3 or 4 chapters. And some of the questions will come from the quizzes that are given on those chapters. In addition to that, the final will be a 80 question. They'll have 50 questions covering the new material that was covered, and 30 questions that come from the quizzes that were covered in the first 3 exams. And when I say come from them, they are from the same pool, so they're the same question. You will be allowed to retake your quizzes as many times as you want. You have to make at least a 70 on them to move on. And your highest grade is what you get. So if you want to retake all the quizzes before the final, do it. It's not going to hurt your grade. If you've got 100 and you retake the quiz and you get a 50 on it, you still have 100 because it goes by the highest one. The exams are going to be open book, open note. You can use your personal notes and your personal notes only. There's one little caveat. When we have our discussion boards, you are going to be able to see other people's answers, and you can incorporate them into your notes. So copy them, put them in your notes, save them with your notes, and you can use them. This is what we're encouraging you to do. That's part of the discussion, is to look at other people's answers and tell me when they're different than yours. And then tell me whether yours is right or theirs is right. But you'll see another video on the discussion later on that you can give you a little bit more understanding of that. You cannot use any other sources. You cannot use any Google searches or any web searches, any study sheets that were from somebody else, any practice tests. You can't go to Quizlets. I had a student a couple semesters ago who went to Quizlets. And the problem is with HonorLock, I see what screens you go to. So, yeah, she failed the class. And by the way, it's highlighted. I'm going to say it a couple times. If you cheat on an exam, you will fail the class. If you cheat in the course, you will fail the class. That's including cheating by not doing the discussion right or sending a blank discussion in so you can take an exam. That is cheating, and you will fail the class. Do not do it. You will fail this class if you cheat. I don't know how I can emphasize it anymore. I will honestly say I've only had one student who's failed the class since I've been here in 2014 because they were cheating. But it can always happen again, and it hurt me when they failed. When I was at the University of Phoenix, if I had only one student in the class of 10 cheat, unfortunately, their system was, hey, they cheated. Oh, well, we got our money. Let them keep going. But anyway, no, they're on probation. Probation, their check had to clear before they could go back to the next semester. And I'm not trying to gripe about it, but I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. There will be weekly quizzes. I already mentioned them over each chapter. You have the introductory quiz. You'll have a quiz over the research paper that you will have to pass. The introduction and the research paper you'll have to make 100% on. The others you have to make at least 70% on. I mentioned the research paper. In this research paper, you will, there's another video on it, so I'm just going to go over it briefly, just to kind of mention there's topics. You want to select your topic as soon as you can, because only one student per topic. You will have to interview somebody. You have to have an interview of somebody that knows more about the subject than the average person. So don't submit one without it, because it will be rejected. If your research paper is rejected, and you don't get one submitted with a interview on it, you fail the class. You have to have an interview. You have to have an interview in order to pass this course. You have to submit it in a timely manner. If it's due on a Thursday, if you don't submit it till Friday after I've pulled up the screen Thursday morning, I'll tell you if you're at 12:01, I probably won't be looking at the screen. I do warn you, I get up and run in the morning, so I am generally on the computer by 6 a.m. So you want to get it done in time, because if it's late, you lose 10 points. And if you don't submit it till the following Friday after that, then it's 2 weeks late and you lose 20 points. You go over 5 weeks and you've lost half your points. I mean, you can still get a 50 on it, but that's not that great. Participation in discussion, and for the online courses, the participation grade is actually your discussion grade. It is set up, and there's another video on it. It is set up so that you have to post first. For the discussion, you've got to tell us what you think was most interesting about the chapter, and then put in an exam review that you are going to download before you start the first chapter for this discussion board, or before you watch the video and read it and start filling it in. Once you submit it, then you can see other students' work. If you submit a blank form, or just submit what you think most interesting about the class, and then wait and submit your exam review later on, I'm going to assume you're cheating and you're going to fail the class. Do not do it. Now, if you forget to attach it, and please don't send your exam review as an attachment. Cut and paste it into the document like I show in the video. But if you forget it and you look at the screen and go, oh no, I forgot it, and you immediately do a follow-up post where you get it, I can look at the date and timestamp on there and know, oh no, they didn't have time. It's when you post it and then an hour and a half later, after you've read other people's posts, and then you post your answer, and your answer happens to be the same as other people's, then I know you're cheating and you're going to fail the class. So don't do that. It's very important. And the last thing is, you can't take your exam till you post the discussions. And I've had people that, well, I ran out of time, so I just posted a blank post. I've actually had one that's, their discussion said, I just sent this post so I could take the exam. And I sent them going back and said, you just failed the exam. So, just don't do it. Again, it is cheating, and you will fail the course if you're caught cheating. So just keep that in mind. The discussion will include follow-up posts, and again, watch the video on that. I'm not going to spend much time on it here. We'll just kind of move on. Now, as far as the grading summary, the major exams are all worth 15% of your grade, as are the quizzes. The final exam is worth 20% of your grade, and then the research paper and the participation are both worth 10%. Now, keep in mind, your research paper is worth between 10% and 100% of your grade. If you don't submit a research paper, you fail the class. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, I said I'd talk to you about the attendance, and there are no set times for this class other than the orientation, which will be on the first Tuesday, and I'll forget the exact date, but we'll get to that shortly and talk about it and show you the link to it. There's no set time that you have to do anything. And if you can't be at any one of the 3 orientations, what you'll end up doing is calling me at some time, and we'll go over things to make sure you're on the same page with me as far as what's expected of you. And again, if we do the on-campus video presentation, but there is an alternative. So the way we take roll is by meeting course deadlines, and everything is due by midnight on Thursday for each week. The first week is a short week. You only have a couple days to do a few things, and there's really quite a bit to do. As far as, it's nothing hard to learn, but you got to watch this video, you got to watch a couple videos, take a couple quizzes, sign up for your research paper, that type thing. You've got 3 days to do that. And then after that, you've got the full 7 days for the rest of the semester, and you can work ahead. So there shouldn't be any issue reaching the deadline. If you do everything that's due that week, you are marked present. If you don't do anything that was due that week, you're marked absent. Well, what about the middle ground? You do your discussion, you take your quiz, but you don't turn in your research paper. Well, then you're going to be marked as late. Missing one item makes you late. Missing all items makes you absent. Now, 2 lates equal 1 absence. So let's say that you have missed 3 classes, or you didn't do any work for 3 weeks, and then you're late the next week. Well, after 3 absences, anything more than 3 absences causes you to lower your grade by your final grade by 1 letter. So if you got an A average and you missed 3 classes, or you didn't do any work 3 weeks, that's 3 absences, and you have 1 week you didn't take the quiz, so you're late, that's a half of an absence. So you're now at 3.5 absences, which is more than 3, so you now have a B in the class, even though you had an A average. If you had a D, you failed the class. Now let's say you're late on quizzes the next 2 weeks, and now you've got 4.5 absences. Now if you have an A, you got a B. You have a C because it went down 2 grades, and if you had a C, you failed the class. So just keep that in mind. It's very important that you reach deadlines. Also keep in mind, even if you're marked absent during a week, all assignments must be completed in order to pass the course. It means you got to do all the quizzes, all the discussions, take all the exams, and do the research paper and present the research paper in order to pass the course. It's everything done. Now, if your research paper is 4 weeks late, you're not going to have a passing grade on it because if it's 4 weeks late, you've lost 40 points. Well, I guess you could get a 60 on it if you had 100%. But you're not going to have a very good grade. But you have to have it because if you don't turn it in, you don't pass the class. Just also keep in mind, if you're fall behind, I will have to make a report to the advising service. They used to call it retention specialist, who will then call you and try to see if there's some issues that we can get fixed. If there's any reason that you do have problems, you've got internet issues, you've got someone gets sick, you've got called into work, whatever, keep me advised. I will work with you. Let me know what's going on so that we can kind of go from there. Okay, so now let's go on back to the weekly tabs. We'll start with week 1 to show you what all is due this week. And again, on the face, you can scroll down and see what is due each and every week. Subject to change, but it will normally be there. If there's a change and it's like 1 or 2 deadlines, I probably will not change this section, but we'll see. Each week we'll start. Well, the first week we're going to start with this online orientation, which will be Tuesday the 24th at either 10 a.m., 2 p.m., or 7:30 p.m. It will be done online, and we're going to follow this link, and it will take you. Click on this link. I can't actually load it because I'm using the mic and camera here. If I did that, it's going to I'll click on it and it's going to tell me, hey, you can't get in because of your camera and mic or something. Well, I say that there's no telling. Of course, it's probably going to work today because I said it would. But anyway, you'll put your name there, your full name. It let me in this time. Oh well. I'll go ahead and exit out so that it doesn't cause me other issues. Let's go back. There we go. Our orientation will only be about 20-30 minutes, depends on questions that we have. We'll make sure you watch this video. You'll watch if you have the weekly update video and so forth, and any questions. Just want to make sure everybody understands what's going on, and if there are any issues, and just kind of more check in with everybody. Each week I will have a weekly update video, as in this one. Why, hello everybody, and we'll get to hear me talking again. We'll talk about what we did last week and what we're going to do this week, what's due or what's coming up due, and so forth. They won't usually be 16 minutes long. I did this that last fall. All of my classes were online, and this was kind of more of a how to do the orientation and so forth, because I had a lot of students who had never taken online courses. We'll have again the week in advance saying what you need to do. The main thing, the longest thing is watching this video and so forth. And of course, my phone decided to go off, so let me go ahead and tell it to stop, and we'll just kind of have a glance at everything. You'll have the learning objectives for each chapter. You'll have the video. Again, this video right here is going to be taking the place of the 2020 video. If you haven't seen the APA plagiarism video, or if you want a refresher, watch it. It also has details on the section on the paraphrase exercise that you'll do. If you haven't used HonorLock before, which you'll do for the intro quiz, watch this video. It will show you how to use the HonorLock system. I guess I have an HonorLock practice quiz. I think I had some people with issues and we redid it. That won't be there. Then we have the Introduce Yourself, where you will click on here. You will have to create a thread before you can read anybody else's. And here you tell us what your major is, your current job, your career goals, anything interesting about yourself. You know, just kind of introduce yourself like you would in the classroom. And then below that we have the paraphrase, where you will read this newspaper article. You will close it out. You'll open up a discussion board, and then put it in your own words what it's all about. And then we have a link to the research paper section. We'll go to that in just a second and look at that, and tell you there's another video on it, so I won't spend time telling you about the paper itself, but I'll show you where you can sign up for it. And then finally, on this page, each week there will be a section on Ask Your Instructor. This is where you ask questions about due dates. There's something in the material you don't understand. Anything that is something that the class would look at. You don't ask about your grade. You don't ask about the courses you should take. If you want those questions, the personal questions, send me an email. But anything that you think somebody else may have the same question, go ahead and ask it here. And I encourage each one of you, as soon as you watch this video, go here, click on it, and then click on subscribe. And then anytime someone asks a question, you will now have your answer. The question you'll get an email when there's another question, so you know that there's one. I've been using it for like 4 or 5 semesters, and I think the most I've had is maybe 3 or 4 questions in one class. So you're not going to get inundated with email on that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look at week 2, and I didn't go to the student mode. I thought it was in the student mode. I'll click it. I think I got booted out of the student mode, so hang on a second. And you'll notice in week 2 that the chapter 1 video is not going to be available. It's not there. Neither is the quiz. That's because the practice student, the student preview student, has not taken the introduction quiz and done the introduction discussion board, so they're not there. Get back out of the student mode and go back to the instructor mode. You'll see they're there. So you watch the video, you'll take the quiz, make at least a 70 on it to move on. Before you do, you want to go ahead and download this the Word document and start filling it in as you go. So, like, tell us who George Beto is. He was actually head of the Texas prison system at one time, and you've got all these other individuals to look at, and you want to give us your answers. And that's for chapter 1. Go ahead and type them in. There'll be a video for you to watch on. I'll move it over here on submitting your research paper. I mean your discussion boards, so that kind of see how to do it. You'll have links during the second week to the follow-up post for your introduce yourself and paraphrase exercise, and those are pretty much open discussion. Your responses. You've got some criteria for the regular discussion board, but you'll watch those. Now we'll go back over and look at the research paper, where you'll watch this video right here on the research paper.
Well, howdy, everybody. This presentation, we're going to be talking about
17-minute video, so you have a little bit to watch. Here's the possible subjects for you to pick. You'll go to the research paper selection, click on that, and then go ahead and type in whatever your name. Do not erase anybody else's name out. If there's a name there already, it's theirs. You can't take it. So kind of a first come, first served system. Okay, and now kind of move back to this research paper tab. Again, you watch the video, that'll tell you all about it in the presentation submission, but you'll have a little bit more time on that later on. That's all I've got for you this week. Kept it under an hour. And I see by looking out the window, my cat's ready to come in, so I guess that means I've got to hurry up and finish up. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, give me a call if I'm in the office. I'll be glad to answer it. Or if you're going to the online orientation, that would be a really good place to ask it, because other people probably have the same question. So kind of save those up. And again, if it's something you need before the orientation, send me an email and we'll be glad to answer it. Looking forward to seeing each one of you and working with each one of you this semester. And I will be talking to you each week in my weekly update videos. I'll see you then.